The entry-level contracts just keep on rolling in. Luca Pinelli will be a Cleveland monster for the playoff push. And is Mathieu Darche the best available GM candidate for the Blue Jackets? We're going to talk about all of that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, current account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And we've got a lot to get through today. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. We're going to talk about Luca Pinelli, who signed his ELC earlier today. Finally means I have to stop sitting on the knowledge that he's going to Cleveland for this playoff run. We're going to talk a little bit about Mathieu Darche, who is apparently one of the top preferences for the GM job in Columbus. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe we'll make that into a series of all of the GM candidates, and we'll do a little bit of talk about what I like about each one, what I don't like, how likely I think they are to get the job, etc., etc. So we'll talk about Mathieu Darche today. And we'll check in with the playoffs because Denton Mateychuk continues to do insane things over in the WHL. So we'll talk about all of that. But first, Luca Pinelli signed his ELC. He is going to Cleveland on an ATO. His contract starts next season, so it doesn't have to. They haven't burnt a year of his ELC like they did with Gavin Brindley. This is a variety of reasons. Number one is the Pinelli, I don't believe is eligible to play in the AHL next season because he doesn't turn 20. He just turned 19 like 2 weeks ago. He doesn't turn 20 until the end of next season. So he's not actually eligible to play in the playoffs officially, but he can go there as an ATO. He can play for the Monsters. And then what I imagine is that they will ship him back to Ottawa to play for the 67s next season. And then his contract will probably slide. He might get 9 games at the start of next season, see how it goes. But I imagine, based on, love his game. I really, really like Pinelli as a player. But based on what I've kind of seen from his progression so far, what I've seen of his game, like an extra year in the WHL. Nope, the OHL. I know my leagues, I promise. Another year in the OHL is almost 100% not the wrong choice for Pinelli. This season, he had 48 goals in 68 games, which is quite frankly bonkers. I believe he was third in goals in the entire league. He had 82 points, led the Ottawa 67s. He was their captain as well. I believe led the team in playoff scoring as well. They were ceremoniously dumped from the playoffs by their rivals, the Ottawa Generals, which kind of sucks, but is not entirely unexpected when you look at who Ottawa has in their lineup. He was fourth on the team in scoring, but he had 7 points in 10 games for Ottawa this playoff season. So not like the outpouring of offense that I maybe expected from him, but 5 goals in 10 games is still perfectly acceptable. And I think he's going to be a really good addition to Cleveland. Cleveland is obviously, they've got all of their players back now. They've got a little bit of time to wait until they are even going to be playing in the playoffs, because they have that first round bye. They'll be playing whoever wins between Toronto and Belleville, which gets started tomorrow at 7, it looks like. So that'll be an interesting series. I think we talked a little bit about it yesterday. So I'm not going to harp too much on the Monsters, but Pinelli gives them another potential top 6 option, and their top 6 was already pretty scary. I'm just pulling pulling it up now, you've got guys like Malatesta, Del Bubbalus, who made their NHL debuts this season. You've got Trey Fix-Wolansky. You've got Owen Sillinger. Josh Dunn is an option. Stefan Matteau is an option. Hunter McCown is an option. Tyler Angle, Mikhail Pucha, like all of these names. And then you add Luca Pinelli to that mix. And I don't know that he's going to be playing like the toughest minutes possible. Because again, he's a 19-year-old. He's only 5'9". He's 168 pounds. So like he's got some growing to do still. And I assume that if he's listed as 5'9", he's probably closer to 5'7" or 5'8". Would be really interested to see him standing next to Trey Fix-Wolansky, quite frankly, who is officially listed at 5'7". But like I said, it gives Cleveland another option. I personally am a really big fan of this kid. I think he plays the game in a similar way to Gavin Brindley in that he really only knows one speed and it's all. He's got a ton of speed in the defensive zone. He adds a ton of offense. Plays to the whistle. Just one of those Tasmanian Devil energy players that I think he's going to become a fan favorite in Cleveland pretty quickly. If he plays the way that he did in Ottawa, which he may or may not be able to because there's a big step from the OHL to the AHL. Like some players that I've talked to over the past kind of season or so in my work at the Calder Times, we talked about the jump from junior hockey to the AHL. And like it's a pretty big jump. I'm not expecting Pinelli to immediately come in and, 48 goals in 68 game pace for the Monsters, but if they can add, like if he can chip in, a point every other game, like that's huge for me. And he's doing all of this as well as somehow a 4th round pick. Just a real hidden gem for the Blue Jackets with Pinelli, and this makes me even more excited to watch the Monsters this playoff run, which I will be doing because I've tried watching the NHL playoffs and it does nothing for me. So I'm going to watch the teams that I'm invested in the postseason. So we'll have lots of Cleveland Monsters coverage for you coming up, and that's kind of all I've got on Pinelli. But we'll the minute he takes the ice, we'll have things to say. I am 100% sure. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to start a new series, I guess, which is GM Watch. So this is not going to be like an everyday thing. Maybe we'll do it just kind of as and when I think about it, as and when news comes out about the Blue Jackets GM hunt. But I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into Mathieu Darche. Is he the best available GM candidate for the Blue Jackets? It sounds certainly like he's one of the leading candidates, according to some whispers in the media. So we'll talk a little bit about him and what we can expect if he does get the job in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Game Time because I hate to plan ahead, but I also love cheap tickets. And Game Time is the perfect deal for that because they actually make the prices go down the closer it gets to the first pitch for every baseball game. They're the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Makes getting tickets even faster and easier. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat. The lowest price guarantee, which is if you find tickets in your section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They are taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. And it's not just baseball. They've got hockey. They've got the NBA. They'll have the NFL when that comes back. They've got theater, music, comedy. Like, it's not just sports. Anything that is in an arena or a rink or a stadium, you can get it on Game Time. They've got last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, all in pricing. So there's no like surprise fees at checkout like some other ticketing app that we could name and won't. But Game Time is quite frankly the only ticketing service that I use, and it's the only one that I will continue to use. So be like me, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked on Blue Jackets. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day every single day. We're talking a little bit about a potential GM option, and I think we're going to see more and more news come out about this kind of as the offseason marches on. Obviously, it's tough because I think a couple of the top candidates, their teams are still playing. So specifically with Darche, he is currently the assistant general manager for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is the director of hockey operations for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and so this is a name that I think has been getting a little bit more traction because it came out that John Davidson is reportedly willing to move jobs or like change his job title if the right candidate is available. So it sounds to me like if they want to if they want to like coax a guy like Darche away from the Tampa Bay Lightning, because like quite frankly, those are two very different organizations in two very different stages. And you're going to have to sweeten the pot, I think, if you want to get a guy like Darche to come to a team like Columbus, which is in a rebuild stage, which is, hopefully starting to crawl out of that next season. Like, you've done the teardown, you have to start the build of the rebuild, And I think that they have, but I want to see, like, it on the ice. So I wonder if it's a case of you bring in Darche, you give him the GM position, and make him, like, president of hockey operations or director of hockey operations or whatever that is. But he's a guy that is high on my list. He's not number one on my list, but he's definitely a guy out there that a lot of people are saying, a lot of people are fans of, and I think he's definitely. It sounds really bad if I'm like, man, he's definitely not the worst, but he's definitely not the worst, It's gonna be interesting. The Hockey News in February had a little bit about Darche. Oh, I was correct. He is the assistant general manager and the director of hockey operations. So he is doing he's doing two jobs at the minute. He's learning under Julien Brisebois, who is maybe one of the better GMs in the league right now, maybe the best GM in the league. He's worked for a really successful organization. Like, he is definitely a guy that I think could be the right choice, because the other thing that they talked about with what they want from a GM is, they want a disruptor, and I'm not 100% sure if Darche is going to be a disruptor, but I feel like that's probably how he's putting himself across, because otherwise, why would he be publicly in the mix, They want someone with knowledge of the game and experience of the game. So, like, what that means is that they don't necessarily want someone who's been a GM, a billion times. They don't want, like, Ken Holland, for example, who keeps getting a job in this league despite the Ken Holland of it all. But they want someone who's been around the game for a long time, who has experience in areas. And so, like, director of hockey operations, assistant GM is a really solid knowledge base. He clearly knows the ins and outs of how the salary cap works. Tampa Bay has been really great at working the salary cap to their advantage. Darche has been a big part of that. And he's checking, like, on the surface, he's checking all of the boxes. It seems like he's pretty well respected around the league. And it seems like it would be an uncontroversial hire, which I don't necessarily think that uncontroversial should be a selling point for making a hire like this. But I do think that the Blue Jackets could do with, in light of the Mike Babcock hiring, in light of firing Jarmo Kekalainen, they could probably do with some decent press. And I think hiring a guy like Darche fits that role as well. Like I said, he's not my, like, number one top guy. That would still be and continues to be Eric Tulsky, another guy who probably won't be in the conversation until after the playoffs. So, like, that's the other thing, is don't expect this decision to be made kind of in the next couple of weeks, because I think that they want to look at, they've narrowed it down, allegedly. They've got a short list of guys they want to start reaching out to, but guys like Darche, guys like Tulsky, they can't talk to those guys until their seasons are over, unless they reach out and get, like, special dispensation. But if I'm the team that's currently in the playoffs, I'm like, nah, you can wait until we're done. We're not having this be a distraction. We're not having you kind of try to coax him away like mid playoff series. Tampa is, as of the time of recording this, down, I believe, 1-0 to the Florida Panthers. So like Darche will be likely available before the Hurricanes finish their series. So Tampa Bay plays game 2 tonight at 7:30 Eastern, so in like an hour and a half, again, as of the time of recording this. Carolina leads their series 2-0. Tampa's down 1-0. Like, obviously, anything can happen. It's 1 to 2 games in. Like, they could both be available by this time next week. But if I had to put money on it, I would say that Darche and Tampa Bay are probably going to be available to chat with earlier than Tulsky and the Hurricanes. But he's definitely another guy that I'm going to kind of do a little GM spotlight on over the next kind of couple of weeks or so. My official kind of roundup thought for Darche is I would be extremely okay with this hire. I wouldn't necessarily be like jump up and down with glee about it, but I also wouldn't be like upset. I wouldn't be ambivalent. Like, it's a good hire. It's not my number one choice, but in the same way that like if the Blue Jackets had missed out on Adam Fantilli and picked Leo Carlson, like I would have been absolutely fine with that. I would have been happy about that because Leo Carlson's a really good player. And I feel kind of the same way about Darche, that he's kind of, Fantilli was the number one guy on the non-Bedard list for me. Tulsky is my number one guy, but that doesn't mean that Darche is not like a good potential candidate. And I think he's got that connection to the Blue Jackets, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. There's just no way to know. He played parts of 3 seasons with the Blue Jackets back in 2000, 2001, 2000. Between 2000 and 2003, he played parts of 3 seasons with the Blue Jackets. Also spent some time with their AHL affiliate at the time, Syracuse Crunch. Didn't super move the needle as a player, but has clearly become, smart, well-respected guy. And quite frankly, if Julien Brisebois thinks that he's a good candidate to hire, like I am on board with that. There's a reason that Tampa Bay is so successful, and Brisebois is a big point of that, is a big part of that. So like he wouldn't keep a guy like Darche around for, the last 5 seasons if he wasn't a good choice to be in the organization, But like I said, the Blue Jackets connection could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. I think sometimes this organization relies a little bit too much on nostalgia and bringing guys back. We see it all the time. They traded for Jacob Voracek. They brought Rick Nash back, which that's not a bad move. Don't come for me. I'm not saying that bringing Rick Nash back was a bad move, but this team, I feel like, loves to trade on great players from the past and connections with the team. And, they brought Jack Roslovic in, hometown kid. Sean Corelli, hometown kid. They hired from within. Brad Larson was a player for the Cleveland Monsters before he was a coach, and then a coach for the Blue Jackets. And, they love to trade on success from the past. And I don't necessarily think that Darche is like, he's not like, oh, hey, that famous former Blue Jacket, he was here for 3 seasons and played like, he played 15, 24 games total, if my on the fly math is correct. So like, it's not that they're bringing back some huge Blue Jackets legend. So like, I think it's less about nostalgia, and I think it's more about, hey, we know this guy. Like he could be a really good option. So he's definitely on my list of guys to watch. And if they hire him, great. It's extremely not a bad thing. I feel like I've spent this whole segment being like, wow, it's not the worst thing in the world if they hire him, I guess. But like, I am genuinely on board for a Darche hire. I think it would be a good thing. I think it would be a good move for the team. I think it would help the team move forward. And I would be interested to see what his approach to the draft is, because that's the other thing is the Blue Jackets have been a really good team at drafting for the past kind of 4 or 5 seasons. And I think a lot of that has been due to Kekalainen and his scouting staff. Tampa Bay has not had a ton of draft capital recently, and why should they? They're a good team. They're perpetually in the chase for the Stanley Cup. They don't draft basically below 25, And they give up a lot of supplemental picks to, add to their roster. So they don't necessarily have a wealth of drafting experience. So that's something else to watch as well. Is do you want a guy that's going to get you those picks in the draft like Carolina does, or like Kekalainen did, or do you want a guy that's not used to drafting, fourth overall because his team hasn't done it in a billion years? Like the last time, I'm going to pull this up real quick, actually. The Tampa Bay Lightning haven't drafted outside of the playoffs, I think in like 6 or 7 seasons. I'm just pulling up their draft selections in, if I can. Okay, here we go. So the last time the Blue Jackets drafted, the Blue Jackets drafted in the first round in 2022. They drafted 31st overall. That was Isaac Howard. Previous to that, they drafted 27th overall in 2019. That was Nolan Foote. They drafted 14th overall in 2017. That was Cal Foote, which I enjoy the symmetry there. 2016, they drafted 27th overall, Brett Howden. They drafted 19th overall in 2014 to get Tony DeAngelo. Their last their last top 10 draft pick was in 2013, and that's Jonathan Drouin. They took him 3rd overall. Since then, they've drafted in the first round 4 times in the 10 years previous to that, because they don't have they either don't have their first round picks, or they're drafting so high that it basically doesn't matter. So I'll be interested to see what his approach to the draft is like, because I suspect it'll be, all of these low draft picks, what do I do? So we'll keep an eye out for that. Can take another quick break, and then we get back. We're going to check in with the WHL, the OHL, and of course our friend Oiva Keskinen over in the Liga, and we'll do some playoff roundups. That's coming up in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel, because the NBA playoffs are here, the NHL playoffs are here, baseball's in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers are getting $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150 whether you win or lose. You can bet everything from slap shots, home runs, to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. Looking at what happened in the nonsense last night, I think betting on the Carolina Hurricanes to win the cup would be a really safe bet, quite frankly. So why don't you go ahead and do that on FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. Get $150 just for placing a bet at America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel. I just want to tell you about Policy Genius, because life insurance is really important. It's something that you need, but it's also so stressful to figure out. There's a million different policies. They all say different things. So why not go through a guy like Policy Genius? With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 a year for up to $1 million of coverage. Some options even offer things like same-day approval. They avoid unnecessary medical exams. And they don't have a horse in this race. Like, they don't have any incentive to recommend one insurer over another. So you can trust their guidance, and you can trust that they are doing the right thing for you. It's convenient. It's time-saving. They help you compare your options in just a few clicks from all of America's top insurers. And it gives you that little bit of extra safety. You might have life insurance policies through work, but that might not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, if you leave your job for any reason, it might not come with you. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl, or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. It's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day every day. And we're going to go right ahead and look at the Liga. We're just going to get it over with. Tappara and Oiva Keskinen are up 2-0 in the championship over the Pelicans. They won their first game, if I can find it. I can't find it. It's fine. But they're up 2-0. I see Like, there's no. Oh, here we go. They won the second game 3-2, and they won the first game 3-1. So maybe the Pelicans will make the next game 3-3. Who knows? But Over Keskinen, I believe, has 7 assists so far in the playoffs, which either ties or sets a record for rookie playoff run in the Liga. So again, I don't know that Keskinen is ever going to become, a difference maker at the NHL level, but he's a really nice hidden later round gem that could end up, like Mikhail Pucha, being a fun player to add to the Monsters. Probably not this season, or probably not next season, but the season after that, or the season after that, maybe. He's still only 19 years old. He's definitely one to watch. But what I wanted to talk about was how insane it is that Denton Mateychuk is leading the entire WHL in scoring, and then his teammate is in second place. So Denton Mateychuk is first in scoring for the WHL playoffs right now with 19 points. Jagger Furcus is sitting on 18, and then third place is Riley Height of the Prince George Cougars. Denton Mateychuk has 14 assists in the, I think, 8 or 9, and then 9 games that they've played so far. Yeah, 9 games. So they won the first series 4-0 over the Brandon Wheat Kings. They won the second series 4-1 over the Swift Current Broncos. They're going to be playing the Saskatoon Blades in the third round, which that's going to be a really interesting matchup because Saskatoon won their first series 4-1 against Prince Albert, swept the second series against Red Deer. So both teams have an 8-1 record coming into round 3. So, like I said, it's going to be super interesting to watch. Their goaltender is currently at the Saskatoon Blades goaltender that currently has a goals against average of 1.66 and has won 7 of the 8 games that Saskatoon has played. So it really does feel like it's going to be a real offense versus defense. He has a save percentage of .928 and has made 154 of 166 saves over 8 games, and he's doing all that as a rookie as well, which is super impressive. But it's going to be offense versus defense, I think, in this series. I think Moose Jaw takes it of the top 10 scorers in the playoffs right now. Oh, this hasn't updated for the last couple of games. Yeah, that's annoying. But like I said, Denton Mateychuk currently tops in the West for everyone. As a defenseman, wild. It's going to be so much fun when he comes to Cleveland, either at the end of this season or next season. I'm really excited about it. In terms of other players, Martin Reishavi is continuing to tick along himself. He is currently in 8 games. In 9 games so far, he has 5 points, which again, as a 7th round pick of the Blue Jackets, the fact that he's anywhere close to a point per game in the WHL playoffs is really fun. He again is going to be a piece that gets added to Cleveland next season. I'm excited to see that. And we'll do one final check-in. Obviously, Luca Pinelli is not available anymore because the 67s were bounced from the playoffs. The London Knights swept the Kitchener Rangers. Max McCue is, I believe, 4th on the team in scoring. He has, I think, 9 points in 8 games for London right now. And they will be playing the winner of Saginaw Spirit and the Sioux Greyhounds, who are at 3-3. Saginaw had a 3-0 lead, and then the Sioux Greyhounds have come back and won 3 games straight. So Game 7 is going to be interesting for sure. Just pulling up the box score for the Saginaw Spirit, because I believe Nolan Lalonde has made his arrival. He is 2-3. He has saved 113 of 128 shots, allowed 15 goals, currently has an .883 save percentage, and it sounds like he's going to be the guy going forward, which makes me think that Oki is injured. So it all comes down to, I think Game 7 is tonight, actually. I've lost my my schedule. Where is it? Yep, Game 7 tonight. That's going to be an interesting one to watch, I think. That we could be down to just 3 Blue Jackets prospects in the playoffs, in Max McCue at London, Martin Ryshavi and Denton Mateychuk over in the WHL. So keep your eyes on what's going on over there. And that's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow, I think what we're going to do is we'll do... we might start our season reviews, actually. We'll take a look at... I don't know what order they're going to go in yet, but we'll start our season reviews. I think we'll probably start with Johnny Gaudreau, because that's going to be one of the more interesting ones, I think. So that's coming up on tomorrow's episode of Locked on Blue Jackets. Thank you for listening to this episode of Locked on Blue Jackets. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. You can find us on Instagram at LO_Blue Jackets as well. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, thank you for making this your first listen of the day, and stay locked on.